ولا تدع مع الله إلها آخر لا إله إلا هو كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه له الحكم وإليه ترجعون لا إله إلا هو كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه له الحكم وإليه ترجعون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين أم حسب الذين يعملون السيئات أن يسبقونا ساء ما يحكمون من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت من السميع العليم ومن جاهد فإنما يجاهد لنفسه إن الله لغني عن العالمين والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لنكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولنجزينهم أحسن الذي كانوا يعملون ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حسنا وإن جاهداك لتشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لندخلنهم في الصالحين صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. In the name of Allah, the Merciful, the Beneficent. And do not invoke another God besides Allah. There is no God except Him. Everything is to perish except His face. All judgment belongs to Him, and to Him you will be brought back. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alif Lam Mim. Do the people suppose that they will be let off because they say, "We have faith," and they will not be tested? Certainly we tested those who were before them, so Allah shall surely ascertain those who are truthful, and He shall surely ascertain the liars. Do those who commit misdeeds suppose that they can outmaneuver us? Evil is the judgment that they make. Whoever expects to encounter Allah should know that Allah's appointed time will indeed come, and He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. Whoever strives only for his own sake. Indeed, Allah has no need of the creatures. As for those who have faith and do righteous deeds, we will absolve them of their misdeeds, and we will surely reward them by the best of what they used to do. We have enjoined man to be good to his parents, but if they urge you to ascribe to me as partner that of which you have no knowledge, then do not obey them. To me will be your return, whereat I will inform you concerning what you used to do. Those who have faith and do righteous deeds, we will absolve them of their misdeeds. Those who have faith and do righteous deeds, we will surely admit them among the righteous. Sadaqallahu al-aliyyul azim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Progeny of Ahmad Ismail,
O glorious progeny of Ahmad Ismail,
you taught us that only before God we should kneel.
You taught us that only before God we should kneel.
That only if we feel the pain of others can we heal.
That only if we feel the pain of others can we heal.
The world needs your message of Tawheed and love again. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Please join us. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab
and Hussain.
To never surrender our freedom before tyranny.
To never surrender our freedom before tyranny.
To love mothers and daughters and defeat misogyny.
To love mothers and daughters and defeat misogyny.
With honor and righteousness fight every felony.
With honor and righteousness fight every felony.
Enlightened inspiration from your model can we gain. Unique are your sacrifices,
Zainab and Hussain.
Everyone.
Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain.
With liars and hypocrites you spoke with honesty.
With liars and hypocrites you spoke with honesty.
To inhuman savages you preached humanity.
To inhuman savages you preached humanity.
Responded to crudeness with sensitivity.
Responded to crudeness with sensitivity.
Your life in this world was like in a desert rain. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Everyone. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Unique are your
sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain.
Your method so discreet, your purpose reform.
Your method so discreet, your purpose reform.
To free the soul of Deen from hypocritical form.
To free the soul of Deen from hypocritical form.
Resisting those who wish to make exploitation a norm.
Resisting those who wish to make exploitation a norm.
And for these high ideals you would suffer any pain.
Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain.
Everyone.
Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain.
One more time.
Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain.
You represented Allah's every prophet's legacy.
You represented Allah's every prophet's legacy.
Inherited the purity of Fatima Ali.
Inherited the purity of Fatima Ali.
But did the Ummah value these pillars of piety?
But did the Ummah value these pillars of piety?
They massacred one and paraded the other in chains. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and
Hussain.
Everyone together. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Unique are your sacrifices, Zainab and Hussain. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, before I request Moulana Syed Ali Aqib Jaffry to come and start and give his second lecture, I just want to remind people that we will have a question and answer session after the Majlis, after Matam, about 10 minutes. If you think about a question while Maulana is speaking and you want to send it in, then you can use this code slido.com and go to Muharram-1445. That's the code. No space between Muharram and 2023. Just type that and then you can input your question there and Maulana will receive it and we will be able to integrate that in the Q&A session. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let me now request Hujjatul Islam Moulana Syed Ali Aqib Jaffry to come and recite the second majlis in this series of 9 majalis on the topic of Karbala, the ultimate trial. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us begin with reciting a Suratul Fatiha for the sponsors of today's Majlis, the family of Sayyid Wasim Ali, in specific Sayyid Shafqat Ali and Sayyida Farasat. Suratul Fatiha. Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الغر الميامين المعصومين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون صلوات Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has certain principles that govern the functioning of this universe. Those principles, Allah has declared them to be unchangeable. They will not change. They are the sunnats of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ways of Allah in which He manages the affairs of this dunya. One such principle is that He does not change the state of any nation unless they change themselves. Inna Allaha la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change the state of any nation unless they themselves change what is within them. Another sunnat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that governs this world is that Allah has appointed causes for things to happen. It is a natural cause and effect theory that governs the universe. Things do not happen randomly. Allah has decided, and Allah does not like that things happen but through their causes. This is another sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to pray to Allah, to ask Allah to make a dua that goes against the sunnah of Allah will not be accepted by Allah. This is yet another sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will not be accepted. Yesterday we mentioned certain du'as, certain people whose du'as are not accepted. It is important to remind ourselves that those whose du'as are not accepted, it is in the particular context of that du'a. A person who makes a du'a that goes against a sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that particular du'a will not be accepted. It is possible that he is eligible and qualified, that if he makes other du'as, those du'as will be accepted. I just wanted to point out that do not get the impression that any dua that that person makes will not be accepted. No. Any dua that goes against the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not be accepted. A very important sunnah, that it is very important for us to understand this sunnah. For if we understand the sunnah of azmaish, the sunnah of trial, a lot of the problems, a lot of the mental illnesses that are out there right now can get solved, which the humanity is facing. A lot of diseases, that are classified nowadays under the category of mental illnesses, depression. Why is this happening to me? Why am I deprived of these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? A lot of these questions, and as a result, the disappointment and dissatisfaction and depression that people go through can be cured if we completely understand the sunnah of Azmaish. Yes, this sunnah of Azmaish runs every moment in our lives. Whether you are given a blessing of Allah, whether you are deprived a blessing of Allah, you are being tested. This test is going on. So if you are deprived a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not that Allah is upset at you and that is why you have been deprived. Or if you have been given a blessing, it is not that Allah is happy with you. If you have been given a blessing, Allah is testing you through that blessing. And if He has deprived you of a blessing, He is testing you through that blessing. The holy verse says, "Ahasiban nas." Do people think that they will be left alone, that they have said, "We've believed"? وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ, and they will not be tested. The very next verse says, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ. Verily we tested those who were before them. The word that comes in this verse, fatanna, we have tested, comes from the root word fatana. Same word you find in the word fitna. The word fitna is commonly used in Urdu as well. And one of the problems that happens is when the same word is used in two different languages with slightly different meanings. Then that causes issues and problems if we do not pay attention to the fact that these words have different meanings in different languages. For example, the word ihsan is an Arabic word and it's an Urdu word as well. What do you generally understand by the word ihsan? Favor. किसी पर लुत्फ करना, एहसान करना, giving them a favor that they don't deserve. This is the meaning of the word ihsan in Urdu language. Hal jaza'ul ihsan illal ihsan. When this verse is translated, it is generally translated as क्या एहसान का बदला सवाए एहसान के कुछ और हो सकता है. But the word ihsan in Arabic does not mean favor. The word for favor in Arabic is man. لَقَدْ مَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. God bestowed a favor on the mu'mineen when He sent a prophet from within themselves. The word is man. Ihsan in Arabic means husnul amal, a good deed, neki, the best of actions. A good deed needs to be reciprocated with a good deed. So when translations happen and you use the equivalent in the other language without paying attention to the fact that there is a difference in meaning, the meaning gets changed or gets tempered. Fitna in Urdu has a negative connotation. Muashare mein fitna paida ho gaya. But in Arabic, fitna does not have the same meaning as the word fitna in Urdu. Fitna, the usage of the word fitna, for example, fatantu zahab bin nar, I tested gold in the fire. The word fitna in Arabic means to examine and to test. The same goes with the word bala. Inna haza lahuwal bala'ul mubin. Bala in Urdu has a negative connotation, but in Arabic, bala means to test someone. This was a manifest test. So we need to pay attention that the word fatanna means to test. The word bala or ibtala means to test. Khalaqal mawta wal hayat liyabluwakum, the same word, so that he would test you. Ayyukum ahsanu amala, which one amongst you performs the best of the deeds. So it is important to realize that when Allah says that you will be submitted, you will be subjected to fitna, or this holy verse, I'lamu annama, know that your awlad and your amwal is a fitna. It's a common verse of the Holy Quran. That know that your awlad and your amwal and your wealth is a fitna. It should not be translated as something negative. Know that this is an exam for you. This is a test for you. Spouses are a test of each other. Companions and friends are a test for each other. Enemies are a test for each other. Everything is a fitna in this context. So that is one of the first things you need to keep in mind, that fitna means test and trial. The next question that I'm sure is in your minds is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows my reality, knows the outcome of these tests. Then why is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala testing me? This verse that I recited, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. The very next verse says, وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّ الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِهِمْ. Verily we tested those who were before them. فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَا يَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Verily Allah will know those who are truthful and those who are liars. Taki Allah jaan le. Does Allah need to know? He already knows. So why is He testing us? Why is He putting us through this test? This question is not limited to testing. There are a lot of other sifat and adjectives that we associate Allah with that have the same, that raises the same question. When we say Allah is upset at us, when we say Allah is happy with us, does Allah have a face? That when we say Allah is happy, He has a smile on His face? That is not the concept of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is not material entity, it is not a physical entity that He has a body. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a being that is beyond space and time. So He does not have a body. So when we say Allah is upset, what does that mean? Is He angry? Is there a frown on His face? When you say that Allah has turned towards me, when the servant does tawbah and turns towards Allah, Allah turns towards him. Does Allah have a front and a back that He turns towards us or turns away from us? No. So remember, whenever we talk about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any imperfections, because Allah is a being that is perfect in all aspects, any imperfections that come along with the usage of this word or these attributes, you first have to strip these words of these imperfections before you assign these attributes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So any imperfections that come along with the usage of these words should be negated before. So when we say Allah is happy with us, an image comes of a face that's not there. Allah is seeing me. An image comes of, the thought comes of somebody who has eyes. There are no eyes. You have to get rid of that concept. So when we say Allah is happy, what does that mean? When you're happy with someone, what happens? When you're upset at someone, what happens? So when you're happy with someone, you bless them with blessings. And when you're upset at someone, you deprive them of certain blessings. So when we say Allah is happy at you or happy with you, and Allah is upset at you, it does not mean there's a smile on Allah's face. It does not mean that His state has changed from one state to the other. There are no states with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It only means that you have now become eligible for the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we say that Allah is upset at you, you have become eligible, you have positioned yourself, you have done some things and which have make you eligible for the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how do I know Allah is happy with me or Allah is sad at me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed certain individuals among His creation. If a smile was to come on the face of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you would see those smiles on the faces of those individuals. क्योंकि वहां पर स्माइल नहीं आ सकती, वो स्माइल जो खुदा के चेहरे पे आनी थी, the smile that was supposed to come on the face of her, because there is no face over there. You will see that smile on the faces of those whom we call Wajhullah. ये वो हस्तियां, these are the individuals who are the manifestations of the pleasure and displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You look at their faces. If they're happy with you, Allah is happy with you. If they are upset at you, Allah is upset at you. So Allah has appointed His representatives on the face of Allah. When we say, for example, that the sun has risen and the sun sets, does the sun rise and sun sets? Suraj nikla or Suraj ghurub ho gaya. What is happening? It is not the sun that is moving. It is the earth that is rotating. And then why days and nights appear? If the earth positions itself in a way that it faces the sun, it becomes the recipient of divine light. And if it positions itself that it opposes the sun, it is covered with darkness. But the terms we use amongst ourselves, Suraj nikla, Suraj ghurub ho gaya. But we all know the sun does not rise nor it sets. It is the earth that moves. So we do this all the time. Similarly, when Allah is happy at us or when Allah is sad at us, it is ourselves that we have positioned our way, that we are facing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and becoming the recipients of His divine blessings, or we have turned ourselves away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a manner that we have made ourselves eligible, or we have stopped certain blessings from reaching us. The sun never stops to shine. Allah's blessings never cease to shine on His creation. Khuda apni rahmaton ko nahi rokta. He does not stop His blessings. One of His attributes is Ya da'imul fazli alal bariyah. One whose fazl on His creation is eternal. He does not stop His light, His blessings on His creations. It is the creatures who position themselves in a way that they stop the blessings of Allah from reaching them. Similarly, the same goes with the word testing. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests us, He already knows. He does not want to know through testing, because He already knows. It is in His knowledge, in His infinite knowledge, the outcome of this exam. But there are other reasons why someone who knows the answer would test someone. Let me give you an example. So you have a bar of gold and you want to sell it. And you take that bar of gold to the goldsmith, the gold shop. And you are asking for a certain price because you think that your gold is 22 karat gold. And as you're there, another person walks in with 18 karat gold. A gold bar, same weight, but that is 18 karat and this is 22 karat. The goldsmith, by looking at the two, because he is an expert in this field, he would immediately recognize that this is purer than the other. So he gives the other person the fair price for that bar of gold. And when it comes to your bar of gold, he gives you less than what you are expecting. You would immediately object. You gave him this much. But why are you giving me less? What would the person do? He would take out his instrument. He would put your piece of gold in that instrument. And he put the other piece of gold in that instrument. He would run the test and show you that yours is not pure. He is not running this test to know for himself. He's running this test so that you should know the level of purity of your product. This is the motivation that we as individuals do that in our own daily lives. To know the purity, to inform others of the purity of their products. So either sometimes you want to inform others, make them realize the imperfection in their product, or you want to disclose the perfection of a certain product. या किसी शख्स के नक्स का उसको एहसास दिलाना, या किसी के कमाल को दूसरों पर आश्कार करना. These are two reasons why somebody would test someone other than trying to know for himself the level of the purity of those actions. But why would God want to make someone realize the imperfection of their actions? किसी को उसके ऐब का एहसास दिलाना अच्छी बात है. Is it nice to let people know that your product is imperfect? Why would God do that with anybody? It goes back again to the purpose why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this universe. जब तक किसी को उसके नक्स का एहसास ना हो, कमाल का सफर शुरू नहीं होता. If you do not know the imperfection of your soul, of your product, of your action, you will not strive to walk the road to perfection. So even informing those who are deficient in their actions or in their souls of the deficiencies that they hold is a blessing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for it will enable them to undertake the purity of their actions and their souls. And other times Allah would want to disclose the purity of His chosen ones so that others should know whom to follow. So these are some of the motivations behind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala passing each and every one of us through tests. And what is being tested here? If you go to a goldsmith's shop, it is the quality of the gold that is being tested. What is under test when it comes to our relationship with God? It is our character, it is our soul that is being tested. यहाँ किरदार का इम्तिहान है. All the virtues and vices that human character can have, that is being tested. And every test needs tools that are appropriate for that test. So if you want to test somebody in mathematics, in trigonometry or geometry, so in the question paper is said you walk into an examination hall, you will find examination papers and you will find protractors and compasses and rulers and set squares. You are looking at these tools, you will realize that they are going to take an examination of mathematics or trigonometry. You go into another room, you find chemicals in bars, in bottles, litmus papers. You will realize there's a test of chemistry that is going to be held in this room. You go in another room, there are dissection boxes and animals and dead bodies. You will realize these people who will enter this room will be tested for biology. So the tools have to be appropriate for what is being tested. जैसा इम्तिहान वैसे tools. A test of mathematics would require a different set of tools. An exam of physics would require a different set of tools. The test Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taking are tests of the different dimensions of human character. If he needs to test somebody for his bravery, then there has to be swords and spears and armor. If he wants to test someone how they are going to behave under fear, he has to make the circumstances so tight so that he could see who is willing to sleep on the day of Hijrah on the bed of the Holy Prophet. Through this test, he will disclose the levels of the companions of the Holy Prophet. It is through these tests. If he wants to test who is willing to give food in the way of Allah despite them having the need of that food for themselves, he has to create situation where people are fasting. And when the time of opening their fast comes, he has to make a situation. He has to send a miskin and test those individuals in that situation. And then send a yatim, and then send an asir. And if they give their food in the way of Allah, only then their status would be known, and the verse of the Holy Quran will come. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So all of these different scenarios Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have to create if he needs to test people for these virtues. If he needs to test who is worshipping him for the sake of his command and who is worshipping his own soul but prostrating to Allah but worshipping his own inner desires, he has to create someone and then order the angels to bow before him. In Nahjul Balagha, Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam has said, "Law aradallah, if Allah had wished, he would have created Adam alayhi salatu wassalam in such a manner that his noor, that his light would blind the eyes. कि आंखें चुंदिया जाती. The intellect would be surprised. इस तरह से खल्क करता कि उसके नूर से आंखें चुंदिया जाएं और लोगों की अक्लें दंग रह जाएं और ऐसी खुशबू हो उसके अंदर that all of his creation would automatically bow to him. If God wanted, he could have done that. But if that would have happened, then the test of the malaika would have been easy. Then everybody would have prostrated. Even shaitan would have prostrated. But Allah did not want people to prostrate. He could have done that. If he wanted, he could have sent prophets with power and authority. Everybody would have submitted. Then how would he know those who are truly with the Prophet, and how would he know those who are munafiqeen? How would he know though, within the mu'mineen even, within the Muslimeens, how would he separate the mu'mineen from the munafiqeen? And how would he separate even within the mu'mineens, the mujahideen from the qa'ideen, those who go in the way of Allah and those who sit back? So Allah created Adam alayhi salatu wasalam from clay. And he hid his nuraniyat that was within Adam alayhi salatu wasalam and tested his creation. The angels prostrated and got closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shaitan resisted. And by failing the test, he was kicked out of the maqam, of the status that he was sitting in. Had Allah kicked him out without testing him, he would have complained. Why are you kicking me out? He was in the sinf of the malaika, he was within the ranks of the angels for so long. And worshipping Allah for so long. It is through this test, one of the first tests that took place after the creation of Hazrat Adam alayhi salatu wasalam was this test. Shaitan failed and was readjusted to the level where he belongs. So these tests are there to filter people. And so that everyone can be given the proper ranks. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test us using different tools. He himself mentions some of the tools in the Holy Quran. لَيَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ We are certainly going to test you بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوءِ From fear and hunger. وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ And loss of wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ And life was thamarat and fruits, or grandchildren and children, your sons, loss of your sons. We are going to test you. Now this is a test with musibah, where he's going to send a hardship towards you and test you. What is being tested when hardship comes your way? Whether you are sabir or not. Whether you are steadfast or not. That is why the very next part of the verse says, when it says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوءِ وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ Give the glad tidings to those who are steadfast. Which sabirin? الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ When musibat comes to them, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ They say, Inna lillahi. How will Allah filter those who say these when musibat comes to them? Through hunger, through loss of wealth, through loss of property, through loss of lives and children. Ulaika alayhim salawatum min rabbihim wa rahma. These are the people on which Allah sends His salutations and mercy. Walaika humul muhtadun. These are the rightly guided ones. So when you are tested with musibah, it is your sabr that you are being tested. But I mentioned yesterday that it is not only through musibah that you will be tested. We all will also be tested through blessings. Again in the holy verse, we have this statement. It says, يَبْلُوَكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً He will test you with khair and shar. يَبْلُوَكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ He's going to test you with khair and shar. Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. So the verse, to recite it correctly, instead of yabluwakum, it's nabluwakum. We will test you. Nabluwakum bisharri wal khair fitnatan. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam was sick one day. Early morning, his companions came to visit him. And they asked him this question, Kaifa asbahta? How is your state? Subha kaise kiya aapne? Amirul Mu'mineen replied, bishar, with shar. The companions were surprised and they said, Subhanallah, haza kalamu mislik. Ya aap jaisi shakhsiyat ki taraf se aisi baat we were not expecting. Subhanallah, this is a statement from the likes of you ki shar ke saath humne subah ki. The Imam recited this verse, Nabluwakum bisharri wal khayri fitnatan, and then he explained. He said, Allah says, we are going to test you with shar and khair. And then he said, fal khair as-siha wal ghina. Khair is your health and abundance of wealth and ghina. Washar al-maraz wal-faqr. And shar is sickness and poverty. So when Imam says, and then he said, ibtala'an wa ikhtibaran. This is the tabyin and explanation of the word fitnah. The verse said, nabluwakum bil sharri wal khayri fitnatan. For the word fitna, Imam uses ibtila'an wa ikhtibaran, to test you, as a test. That is why the Imam say that whenever we say anything, ask us, and we will point to a verse in the Holy Quran from which and from where we are speaking. So Allah is going to test us through khair and through shar. Both are, when He gives you abundance of wealth, that is a test. When He takes away wealth from you, that is a test. When He takes away a child from you, that is a test. When He blesses you with a child, that is a test. Nabluwakum bisharri wal khair. When you are deprived of blessings, you are being tested for sabr. And when you are blessed with blessings, you are being tested for shukr. This verse, فَبَشَّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, points to sabr in the case of in the case of musibah. Another verse of the Holy Quran, when Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam asked his servants and the jinns and his companions, whoever from amongst you can bring the takht of Bilqis for me before she arrives. One of the jinns said, I can bring it before this gathering ends. But then قَالَ الَّذِي إِنَّهُ إِلْمٌ مِّنَ الْكِتَابِ, what did he say? أَنَا آتِيكَ بِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَرْتَدَّ إِلَيْكَ طَرْفُكَ. I can bring it before the winking of your eye. And it is said that before he even winked, he saw the takht of Bilqis right there. The Quran narrates a statement of Hazrat Sulaiman at this point. He said, Haza min fazle Rabbi. And that is why you have this on as a signboard or as a placard that you paste on your houses, Haza min fazle Rabbi. But it does not stop there. It continues, Liyablawani, so that he can test me, ashkuru am akfur. The verse says, ashkuru am akfur, so that he can test me whether I do shukr or I do kufr. So he was blessed with blessings. When you are blessed with blessings, you are being tested for shukr. And when you are blessed with deprived of blessings, when you're giving musibah, you're being tested for sabr. So neither abundance of wealth is a sign that Allah is happy with you, nor these problems is an indication that Allah is happy with you or upset with you. These are only signs that you are being tested for sabr, or if you are being tested for shukr. Blessing is required to test for shukr, and hardships are required to test people for sabr. Everybody has to give these tests. And in Karbala we see that all of these tests come together. All of these different types of virtues that you can imagine, people in Karbala were tested for all of these. You will see fear in Karbala. You will see hunger in Karbala. You will see thirst in Karbala. You will see Imam alayhi salatu wasalam giving away his blessings in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. अपनी नेमतों को खुदा की राह में कुर्बान करके शुक्र इलाही बजा ला रहे हैं. Being tested for sabr, by giving away the blessing of the youth of Ali Akbar. He is doing the shukr of that blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Using it where it needs to be used. By giving away Ali Asghar alayhi salatu wassalam. He is doing the shukr of this blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Spending it where it needs to be spent. और मुसीबतों को गले लगाकर इन्ना लिल्लाहि व इन्ना इलैहि राजिऊन कहकर, by embracing the hardships and by saying inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, he's passing the test of sabr with flying colors. All of the problems, all of the trials with individual prophets had to go through individually. We find all of these difficulties converging in Karbala. It is the locus of grief and trial. Today is the 2nd of Muharram. When we talk about the story of Muharram, we generally start with the death of Muawiyah and Yazid sitting at the throne. And we say, and you hear that when Yazid sat on the throne, he sent a letter to Imam asking for allegiance. The text of the letter was something similar to this, that seek allegiance from Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, and if he denies, send me his head. But we fail to realize that Yazid has not done anything wrong from the moment he sat on the throne. Why is Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam resisting and opposing bay'ah of Yazid? There is a history behind it. It did not start from 61 Hijri or 60 Hijri. Things were happening before that. The time was not right for Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam to start his uprising. With the death of Muawiyah, things changed. And there was an opportunity window in which Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam could do what he wanted to do in order to take away the veil from the face of Banu Umayyah. That was not possible in the previous ruler's time. But with Yazid taking over, it had suddenly become possible, and Imam took the opportunity. So when the messenger of Walid bin Utbah, the governor of Medina, came to see Imam Hussain with the message that the Walid is calling you in the Darul Amara, Abdullah bin Zubair was also there. He was also called. Imam said, go back and I will come to see him. Abdullah ibn Zubair asked, what do you think has happened? Why have they called you late night? Just Maghrib time. Imam said, I think Muawiyah has passed away and they want to get my bay'ah before the news spreads. Abdullah ibn Zubair asks, so what are you going to do? Imam says, I'm going to go and see what happens. The Imam takes his family members, walks towards the Darul Amara, towards the palace, makes his family members stand at the Darul Amara and tells them, do not leave until I come out or until you hear my voice raise. He goes in. Walid bin Utbah places his letter in front of the Imam. The Imam reads this letter. He says, is it not appropriate if you call me in daylight and when you call others in the mosque and you present the matter and you hear what my response is? Marwan was there sitting next to Walid bin Utbah. He immediately interfered. He said, Walid, if you let Imam Hussain go, you will never be able to put your hands on him. If he does not give bay'ah, behead him and finish off the matter. This is again a trial for Imam Hussain. How is he going to respond to this situation? Imam Jalal mein aate hain. He says, Wailun lak, yabna zarqa, O son of the blue-eyed, woe be upon to you. Anta ta'amuru bizarbi unuki. Are you the one who is going to command my beheading? And then he turns to Walid and he said, Ayyuhal Amir. He introduces himself. Inna ahlu baytin nabuwa. We are the family of the prophetic household. Wa ma'adinur risala. And we are the oars of messengership. Wa mukhtalaful malaika. And we are the place where the malaikas descend and ascend from. This is what my family belongs to, what my family stands for. And Yazid wa Yazid, rajulun fasiqun sharibul khamr. Qatilun nafsil muharrama, mu'linun bil fisk. And Yazid is a fasik person, a drunkard, the killer of sacred soul. He's steeped in fisq of fujur. Laysa lahu hazahil manzila. This station that he is claiming does not belong to him. Wa misli la yubay'u mithlah. And the likes of me will never do the bay'ah of the likes of him. A test of courage will manifest in such a situation. He leaves the palace, he goes back and he asks his family to get ready for a long journey. Medina was not easy for Imam Hussain ﷺ to leave. There are memories of Medina. The Holy Prophet passed away in Medina. Lady Fatimatul Zahra is buried in Medina. Imam Hassan is buried in Medina. It is the history of Medina. It is said that after Maghrib, Imam Hussain ﷺ comes to visit the grave of his grandfather and visits him saying, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. And then he introduces himself saying, Ana al-Hussain ibn Fatima. O Prophet of Allah, I am Hussain, the son of your daughter. I am your child and the daughter of your child. I am the grandson regarding whom you had told your ummah to protect him and to help him. But I have come with a complaint. O Prophet of Allah, your ummah has let me down. Your ummah has spoiled me. Your ummah has let me alone. And this is my complaint till I meet you on the day of judgment. Imam goes back from the grave of the Holy Prophet. It is said that at midnight he returned to the Holy Prophet, probably seeking permission to leave the city of Medina. It is said that the Imam at the grave of his grandfather cried a little bit, and then he went to sleep at the grave only to see his grandfather. In his dream, he saw the Holy Prophet has come with an army of angels. He kissed the forehead of Imam Hussain ﷺ and said to him that I am seeing you die on the plains of Karbala. I am seeing that you are thirsty and hungry on the plains of Karbala. You are asking for water and nobody is giving you water. This was a sign that you have been granted permission to leave the city of Medina. Imam Hussain ﷺ left the city of Medina. The family of Imam Hussain left with him. But when they were leaving Medina, they had a full family. The mothers had their babies in their laps. The horses had their rides with them. The men were with the family members. The children were with the family members. The camels were loaded with provisions. But after a few months, this caravan has to return back. And when this caravan was entering Medina, Lady Kulthum recited few verses of poetry announcing her return to Medina. The verses she recited, I'd like to repeat those verses and were translated in Urdu. She said, Madinata jaddina la taqbalina. ए हमारे जद के मदीना
ए हमारे जद के शहर ला तकबलीना, हमें कबूल न करना। फ़बिल हसरात वल अहज़ान जअना, हम हसरतों और गमों के साथ पलट कर आ रहे हैं। खरजना मिन के बेहली न जमन, जब हम इस शहर से गए थे तो अपने अहलो अयाल के साथ गए थे। रजाना ला रिजालन वला बनीना, अब जब पलट कर आ रहे हैं ना कोई मर्द हमारे साथ है ना कोई बच्चे हमारे साथ हैं। फिर रसूल की तरफ मुखातिब होकर कहा वरहतुका या रसूल अल्लाह, ए रसूल खुदा आपके कबीले को ज़िबह कर दिया गया। वरहतुका या रसूल अल्लाह उज़हू अराया बित्तुफूफ़े मुसल्लबीना, आपकी ज़ुर्रियत को सरज़मीने करबला में ज़िबा कर दिया गया और उनके जनाजे सरज़मीने करबला में बेसरो सामान पड़े हैं। फिर जनाब सैयदा को मुखातिब होकर फरमाया अफ़ातिमो लौ नज़रती लस्सबाया बनाती के फिल बिलाद मुशत्ततीना, ए बीबी अगर आप अपनी बेटियों को असीरी की हालत में देख लेती किस तरह से दर बदर भिराई जा रही थी, तो आप जब तक जिंदा रहती गिरिया नुदबा करती रहती। फिर फरमाया अला या जद्दना कतलू हुसैना, ए हमारे जद हुसैन को कत्ल कर दिया गया और उनकी हुर्मत का बिल्कुल भी पास न रखा गया। मातम हुसैन।
On that day of Ashura, from that land of Karbala, hal min nasir yansurna, hal min nasir yansurna. Can you hear it loud and clear, the call of Sayyid al-Shuhada? Hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna. On that day of Ashura, from that land of Karbala, hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna. Battered and surrounded by the likes of Hurmala, hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna. Battered and surrounded by the likes of Shimro Hurmala, hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna. Hurt and thirsty yet his cry reaches everyone near and far. Hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna. Everyone, hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna, hal min nasir yansuruna,
هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
There is no Qasim or Akbar, oh no Muhammad Abdullah. There is no Abbas or no Muslim ibn Osija. هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا. We wish we were there to say لبيك يا ابن رسول الله. We wish we could have responded to your call of Ashura. We wish we were there to say لبيك يا ابن رسول الله. We wish we could have responded to your call of Ashura. هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا هل من ناصر ينصرنا.
Switch between audience and online. Yes, sister has a question in the back. Wa alaikum assalam.
You talked about the tools that Allah uses in the Quran. You mentioned a few ayat, or if it was one ayat, especially the one that Imam Ali recited when asked why he used the word share to describe his condition. Could you probably tell me the reference for those ayat?
Sure. After the session, you can come and get it from me, inshallah. Another question online is it possible that Allah will test us out of our limits? Like, will He test us for a thing for which the tools are not available with us? Another sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah does not test any soul with something that they cannot bear. So Allah will not put a burden on you beyond your capability. This is another sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person cannot fast for 8 hours, then the fasting is not obligatory on them. So this is a sunnah of Allah, and the fuqaha use these sunnahs to make exceptions for those who cannot bear that hardship. If somebody cannot bear a hardship, that hardship is not a test for them. So Allah will not test somebody. Allah will not put a burden on a person that they cannot bear. Any other question from the audience? There is a question. Okay, Junaid, after this we'll have a question from there. Yes. Bismillah.
Why did Imam Hussain is a bani in such shahada? Although he had made peace with Yazid like Imam Hussain with Muawiyah. मतलब कि Imam Hussain al-Salam ने क्यों सुलह नहीं की? शहादत को क्यों कबूल किया? हालांकि वो सुलह कर सकते थे, कहने बजा सकते थे, जिस तरह कि Imam Hussain al-Salam ने मुआविया के साथ सुलह की. क्योंकि मुआविया कहते जैसे, लेकिन इमाम ने अगर सुलह की यहाँ पे शहादत को कबूल किया, ऐसा क्यों?
Good question. Requires a detailed answer and some investigation into history. Two important points to answer it shortly. Imam Yazid or Muawiyah were not identical. Okay, this assumption in the question that dono ek jaise the is not true. Okay. Muawiyah had a different policy. Then we'll preserve the order, inshallah. Wa alaikum assalam.
Since said that every fair and every share is a form of test for us. So when we usually say that मुझे नेकी के बदले में ये reward मिला है, which is also a form of testing, is that reward also a form of test for us?
Yes. Yes, then that is a test कि आप इस reward के साथ क्या करते हैं अब? So God gifts you with more wealth. With that additional wealth comes additional responsibilities. So that is a test, yes. Yes. Wa alaikum assalam.
My question is from yesterday's lecture, and you mentioned that the study of cause and effect
the subjects that you study in university, when you are delving into the workings of this universe, you are actually studying the works of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those who have engaged themselves with the texts, the Quran and the Ahadith, they have engaged with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one has engaged himself with the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you individuals have engaged yourself with the work or works of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if that is the intent behind it, both are noble. And if the intent with studying the word of Allah is to exercise your superiority over people and to debate with people and to gather fame, for example, then that is the way of shaitan. You are then traveling the way of shaitan. And the same applies with you as well. If the purpose behind studying the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand His infinite wisdom and His knowledge, infinite knowledge, then that can take you away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet both are noble. It depends how you interact and engage with it. Yes. Last question, the sister over there. Wa alaikum salam.
So you explained that both blessings and hardships, they can be a test from Allah. So when you're blessed, what's the best form of shukr? Like how can we be grateful to Allah?
Shukran-e nemat, the zid of that is kufran-e nemat. Kufran-e nemat means hiding the nemat. And shukran-e nemat means exposing the nemat. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a neema, He expects you to use that neema in the way He wants you to use it. So He gives you with intelligence, He wants you to use it in a certain way. He gives you wealth, then He has assigned the portion of the poor innate, portion for your relatives, portion for your children, for your family members, for the poor people. So all of these rights come into your wealth, and you're supposed to then give away those. So that is the best way of shukr, to use that neema in the way Allah wants you to use it, whether it be intelligence, whether it be your children, whether it be your IQ, whether it be your intelligence, or any other form of neema, whether it be power and authority. You're blessed with a job where you can change people's lives. So Allah wants you to use your authority in the way He wants, He has prescribed. So that is the way to do shukr of that neema. Shukran lillah or shukr Allah is just a verbal phrase. Your real shukr is to use it the way He wants you to use that neema. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك وعلى جدك وأبيك. السلام عليك وعلى أمك وأخيك. السلام عليك وعلى التسعة المعصومين من ذريتك. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا مولاي يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس يا أنيس النفوس. أيها المدفون بأرض التوس يا سلطان العرب والعجم يا علي بن موسى الرضا الراضي بالقدر والقضاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والأمر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك ورحمة الله وبركاته اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Brothers and sisters, there is a stall of books and other Islamic items if you want to pay some attention to that. And also another loud salawat for the sponsors of today's Majlis, Sayyid Wasim Ali and his family. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah. Sallallahu Muhammad.